Hello everyone, Jared here, and today we're going to go ahead and leave Lushan and head off to Yibin, where this time we're not going to be staying entirely inside the city. Instead, where we're going to be going for one day while we're in Yibin is heading down south about an hour-and-a-half taxi ride to a place known as the Shuhai Bamboo Forest, right where I'm mousing over here. So we begin our trip by getting in the taxi from our hotel and heading off to the Lushan train station for one last time. Just arrived again at the Lushan railway station. Really hot over here for some reason. There's no cover, I guess, that might be why. But we're gonna go ahead and head off to Yibin now. See you there. I just have a couple things I'd like to say about Lushan before we leave. Everything here really strikes me as new. The city seems as if it's just come up within the past year or two. All the apartments, the malls, everything looks as if it's new. And it's really strange because there's nobody in them. It seems like when you go to an outlet in the US and there's absolutely nobody there. There's no restaurants because there's no people around. And I guess the only area of the city where there seems to be any kind of activity whatsoever is around the Buddha, down closer to the water. Whereas where we're supposed to be is called the center of the city. It seemed more like an outskirts, even though it's closer to where the railway station is. A whole lot of people in here right now. I don't think I've ever seen a train station quite so empty as this. Instead of waiting inside for a train to come, this was the first time that we went outside and waited for the train to pull on in at the station. And after boarding, we went ahead and started moving for the 1-hour train ride south to Yibin, crossing over many hills and rivers until eventually we reached the city, which, as you can see here, is divided by a river on two different sides. And upon pulling in, we went to our hotel, a Crown Plaza, and checked out the room before we decided it was time for us to go ahead and head on out to see what else was in the rest of the city. Although we mainly ended up staying in the area close to our hotel because there was a lot to see right around there. And it was also rather hot outside, so we didn't want to go too far. But one thing that ended up being a pleasant surprise was when I was looking up at restaurants that I'd want to eat at, I'd heard that the tofu in the area was really good, so we went to this tofu restaurant that you see here and decided to try our luck there. We got some anonymous tofu stew soup here. And this tofu soup was actually very nice and soothing, a very light flavor, and I wish I had footage of me eating it, but unfortunately I do not. However, this was definitely my father's favorite dish, as he proceeded to devour it. And then here we have our pork dish. Here we have yuxiang rosi, which is a dish I have had many a time. It's a popular one among foreigners in China because it's usually garlicky, sweet, and spicy. Here we go. That's what I was hoping for. Good stuff. And then the last tofu dish arrived, which was unlike anything we'd ever seen before. And this was a combination of egg at the bottom, round tofu circles, as well as a bunch of other things up on top. Let's go ahead and give this a try first. Oh, that came apart. That's coming apart real fast. Ready? Spicy. I guess what you need to do is mix some of the other stuff in with it to really get the flavor profile. But I would argue these two are better dishes. We enjoyed that meal, but there was too much for us to eat it all. If you happen to be in Yibin and you really like tofu, then I highly recommend that you go to this restaurant behind me. So if you happen to be in the part of Yibin where we had this, you should probably check it on out. Anyways, the next day saw us heading off in a taxi for an hour-and-a-half long taxi ride southeast to the Shunan Zhuhai, or Shunan Bamboo Forest. And we passed along many rivers, mountains, cities, and all different landscapes on our way there. We finally knew we were getting close when we saw the bamboo though. However, the taxi wasn't able to take us inside of the park, and we actually got dropped off near the entrance, from which we had to walk a little bit in order to go inside of a building to get our tickets. We've just arrived at the Bamboo Sea, and we're going to go ahead and take a look around. Right now we're at the visitor center, and we just got the tickets. You get these 2 tickets. This one, the one in front, is for the rail car that'll take you around, and the one in back is actual entry pass. So together for 2 people it's 270 yuan. Don't guarantee that these are going to be the prices for you when you go inside of the park yourself. If you don't have your own vehicle for being able to go driving around inside the park, you definitely want to get the pass for the extra vehicle to drive you around. Otherwise it's going to be a lot of walking, and you especially need to have this if you're only going to be here for 1 day like us. There are hotels inside of this park if you want to be here for a long period of time, but we're just going to be here for this 1 day, so that's why we're going to be using this kind of pass. Unfortunately for us, not everything was open as it was supposed to be, because one thing that happened shortly before we arrived here a few weeks back was there was a major earthquake in the area, so things were under repair. We have arrived at the bamboo forest, and unfortunately a whole bunch of it's under construction right now. The museum's closed, and we're not able to go inside. They're doing all kinds of repairs. So that was a waste of about a half an hour trying to figure out getting there and back. But now we're going to be able to actually see what's inside the rest of the forest. And after a short bus ride, we walked to the right down the street with a bunch of other people and eventually arrived at this spot. Alright, we have just arrived at Guanyun Tai, the first scenic spot on the trail here at the Bamboo Sea. Let's go take a look. So here we are at Guanyun Tai. We're at the scenic spot where for some reason everybody else goes up above and we have the view down here all to ourselves. But you still got the same exact view. Anyways, go ahead and look. I knew that we were going to be high up in the mountains, but I never expected a view like this. Considering how most of China's air quality is not really that great, we were able to see a lot further into the distance than I ever expected. Being able to look down into all the different farmlands, seeing tiny villages here and there, as well as the hills that kept on rising in the background into even higher mountains. It was a really nice view that was worthwhile. So that was our first stop, and now we're going to head off to the next one. And after another short bus ride, we ended up at the Jade Gallery, which is where you go to see the bamboo. We have just arrived at the Jade Gallery, although I think it might be better interpreted as the Emerald Gallery. This is supposedly the most famous part of the entire park, where you just get to see line after line of bamboo. This is why we came here, to see all the bamboo, and now let's go look at it. After spending about a half hour standing around looking at all the bamboo, we walked a short ways in and found ourselves in a little village that was under reconstruction, and it was here that we finally decided to eat lunch. The restaurant was a little noisy on the inside because there were a lot of people at the table right next to us on our right, but we chose it because it specialized in something unique to the area. It's a little noisy in the restaurant even though it's small, but we're going to be trying some real special foods here that you can only find inside the bamboo forest. So what was the special food, you might ask? It turns out that the bamboo forest is home to dozens of fungi species that you can only find inside the bamboo forest. You won't even find these in other parts of Sichuan province, so that's what I really wanted to try while we were here in Shunan Zhuhai. What we just got was this one, the most expensive one, pretty much, because it has a special kind of mushroom, and we also got this one. So these two. A little expensive. But if you're going to come here, you need to make sure that you're going to try some special foods. My dad thought that the little mushrooms kind of looked like eyeballs. Doesn't that sound appetizing? But really, I'm a big fungi fan, so I was really excited to go ahead and dig in to try it. But before we could eat, one of the servers came by and filled up our glasses with tea, which we got for free, which is always rather nice when it happens. And then, let's go ahead and grab some of this, our first mushroom dish. This looks very interesting. I've never seen mushroom like this before. Here we go. That's some good mushroom flavor. A little spicy, a little sweet. And then this was our second mushroom dish, which came with quite a bit of egg in it too. So let's go ahead and see how this fungus is, trying to not get the garlic. This is a completely different kind of mushroom, never seen anything quite like it. Let's see how this one is. This one seems to absorb more flavor. It's spongier and reminds me more of tofu or tofu skin. Less like actual mushroom, but it's still perfectly fine, perfectly good. I'd go ahead and get both of these again. I was really happy with both of these dishes, but I think my father enjoyed them a bit more than I did. He ended up mixing both types of mushroom dishes together into one of his bowls. So after enjoying our meal, we left this restaurant and started to look around the area, recording this little guy that you see walking here, before heading off to the rest of the bamboo forest again. We are standing in the middle of all the bamboo here in the bamboo Jade Grove, and right around me you can see how tall these get. Wouldn't last without this. It was definitely hot, and we were glad to have all the transportation from one site to the next. And we were a little confused as to where we wanted to go next, so this local person helped us figure out where to go next, which was onto these cable cars that you see going above the canyon here. Looks fun, right? We are heading right now over to the cable cars, and I just have to remind you that you should never get tickets from people who are trying to sell them to you other than at the actual kiosks, because the person who came up to me earlier said you should try to get it from him for 30 when we could get the tickets for 20 at the actual station. Here we are, time to go ahead and get inside of our cars. Man, I really love these high views from up above, and I got really lucky with this shot that you see right here with the temple complex on the cliffside down below. Well, that was an enjoyable short ride across. Be careful with the step there. And now we're going to go ahead and head down into the cliffside ruins. And as we walked forward on the path to go down to the cliffside ruins, there was a lady who was being carried in this contraption, which they ended up having to put off to the side and just continue on anyways because it was blocking everyone from going down. And thankfully we were able to go on past them. It's a fun hike down the steps to get here. They're smooth steps, so when it's wet it's even more slippery than it would normally be on regular steps. And I can tell you it's not exactly very safe heading down. You can hit your head on some of the tops of the caves as you're heading down, so be careful if you are going to do this hike down to the fairy cave. And we quickly moved on because of this little guy. down further along the path. Just look behind and you can see this entire temple complex. Now, one thing that I should say about this cave area with all these temples on the side is that it's really difficult to actually know how much of it is old, because it's very obvious that some of it was constructed recently, but a lot of it also looks like it is rather old, and it was difficult to find many descriptions on it at all. Maybe someone who's been there before can tell me a little more if they know anything about it.
I think this is a pretty good spot to just do a pan in my hands to show you the scenery. So as I go ahead and turn this way, you'll be able to see quite the view. And the best is right here.
This was definitely the best spot to get any pictures of the Cliffside Temple complex. Just like I did here in my selfie, which is probably my favorite picture I took in China. But anyways, we continued down the path of the cliffside, passing by all these locks that are hanging from the walls, underneath a waterfall, and walked by more carvings that, instead of looking like they were ancient, really did look like they were carved more recently, before ending up at a small cave, which took us out to our final view of the Sichuan Valley Basin down below. After spending a few final moments here, we decided it was time to head on up and take the bus back to the entrance of the park. And it was not an easy climb to go back up.
Make sure that you drop down here. They even have a picture to show you how you should do it. This climb is not really recommended for those who are physically incapable of walking up lots and lots and lots of stairs. It's quite steep. Who knows how much we have to go that way.
Thankfully, after I made that video, it wasn't too much longer, and as you can see, we were exhausted. But we finally got on the bus and headed back to the entrance.
Well, that was quite the climb back up. Thankfully for us, there wasn't any rain going this day. We were very lucky. And if you speak any Chinese, people will definitely be trying to practice with you while you're going around. Maybe you'll make some new friends.
And so, we took a bus back to the city outside of the Shunan bamboo forest before swapping into a taxi and continuing our way back to the rest of Yibin proper. But before we could call it quits for the day, we had to do one last thing, which was rehydrate, because we needed to drink something desperately.
After getting back from the bamboo forest, or bamboo sea rather, it is so nice to be able to have something to drink. We are dehydrated, and we just decided we would go ahead and try some yogurt drinks at this little stand right here.
So, that's it for our trip to Yibin in southern Sichuan province. I hope you enjoyed this video, and next time we'll be coming to you from a different city called Zigong, where we go to another museum that focuses on the history of salt in China, as well as going to this place, a dinosaur museum where we get to see what a dinosaur exhibit looks like in China. Hope to see you next time. Thank you again for watching this video. Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so. Also, please share this channel with others so we can make the channel grow together as I continue to put out more videos.